Wow. In the midst of a Democrat-led multi-state assault on the right to keep and bear arms comes this. A Massachusetts politician has proposed a bill to mandate that doctors in the state screen patients for gun ownership and then report owners to the state for possible targeting by red flag statutes. Hi everyone, I'm Gardner Goldsmith for MRC TV, and the assault has begun. Virginia's Democrat-led government has produced multiple bills that would abscond with people's firearms and the rights to keep and bear or sell or train with them or even march and protest with them. 17 states have passed so-called red flag bills, utterly dismissing most of the Bill of Rights, and politicians in 29 more states have proposed such bills. And now comes this, as WBZ TV Boston reports. The legislation, H. 2005, filed by medical doctor and Boston Representative John Santiago, Democrat, does not outline specifics for how the new screening program would work. It simply directs the state public health commissioner to create a program for firearms screening and counseling, leaving how and how often patients would be asked to be determined after consultation with a range of stakeholders. And that report is not quite accurate. The range of stakeholders is a euphemism that excludes you if you're in Massachusetts. In reality, those allowed to consult on this schedule for those invasive attacks on rights would be determined by the Director of Health and Human Services in Massachusetts, aka the Commissar. So let's look at the pertinent section of the bill itself. Section 237. The director shall establish a program for firearms screening and counseling. Such program shall systematically screen all patients for the presence of firearms in the home. The director shall, after consultation with recognized professional medical groups and such other sources as the director deems appropriate, promulgate regulations establishing 1. The means by which the intervals at which patients shall be screened for the presence of firearms in the home, and 2. Guidelines for safety counseling for individuals that screen positive for the presence of firearms in the home. Yeah, screen all patients. And God forbid if you screen positive for the presence of firearms in the home. What a creative way to skirt the Fourth Amendment and, of course, reinforce the myth that gun ownership is some kind of public health problem. Yes, I've often mentioned that they try to implicate that gun violence is an epidemic, completely misusing the term epidemic because epidemic is derived from the Greek epi and demos, meaning upon man. It pertains to naturally occurring pathogens spread accidentally from person to person along natural vectors, not intentional human action. So, for example, when Crocs became popular about 10 years ago, one could not say with a straight face that there was an epidemic of Crocs. Additionally, there's the new crime research prevention study revealing that between 1989 and June of 2019, 89% of mass shootings defined as 4 victims or higher were carried out in so-called gun-free zones. And of course, there's the CDC study showing that even at a low estimate, civilian gun owners are nearly twice as likely to stop violent crimes with their guns than to engage in violent crimes with their guns. Now, some might argue that this Massachusetts bill merely applies to state-run medical facilities. But one can see from the wording that this is wrong. The bill commands that the director shall, ellipses, promulgate regulations. And that means fascistic commands for private medical facilities, not merely rules for branches of the Massachusetts government. Simply put, this Massachusetts bill is a scheme to connect doctors and private doctor visits with patients with the state so that the state can send armed agents to execute wildly unconstitutional red flag bills. And if you doubt this, Just check out what else WBZ reported. Our priority is to encourage further conversations about gun safety, identify red flags for suicide and domestic violence, and child access to guns, Boston Health and Human Services Chief Marty Martinez told the Joint Committee on Public Health. We know that gun safety is a public health issue. As such, doctors are uniquely positioned to help prevent gun-related injury and death. Brown shirts and brown medical scrubs aren't included in H 2005, but we've seen this kind of make the world safe by taking private guns and leaving arms only in the hands of jackbooted government before. And it has left millions of people dead. There is a darkness growing in the United States. And Massachusetts, the home of the shot heard round the world as Brits came to Lexington and conquered in 1775 to steal private weapons, Massachusetts is one of the states pushing us into this growing umbra. Only the light of truth can fight this kind of malevolence, everybody. And I hope that we can keep the torch lit by rallying our friends and sharing these videos, and by studying the history of individual rights so that we can defend it for ourselves and our progeny. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. Don't forget, like and subscribe, and head on over to mrctv.org, because as I mentioned, there's always something new that someone's producing there. For MRC TV, I'm Gardner Goldsmith.